There's a bloke in the NASCAR garage right now that the biggest names in American motorsport genuinely do not want to see in their mirrors, not because he'll wreck them, because he'll humiliate them. And here's the kicker. It's not just that he's fast. Loads of blokes are fast. It's that he's doing something with his feet in the footwell where no camera usually looks, that not a single American-raised driver has properly mastered. Denny Hamlin, a three-time Daytona 500 winner, a man who's seen everything, sat on his own podcast and admitted it out loud. His words, not mine. I don't think you're going to beat him straight up in a cup car right now. There's nobody that can run with him. That's not a fan saying that. That's one of the best in the business, waving the white flag. His name is Shane Van Gisbergen, and today we're pulling apart exactly why the NASCAR paddock is spooked. Now, if you're watching from down under, you already know the name. Three-time Supercars champion, 3 Bathurst 1,000 crowns, 2020, 2022, and 2023. A bloke who spent the better part of 2 decades wrestling a 1,700 kilo V8 taxi up and over the mountain. But here's what I promise you, by the end of this video, you're going to understand the exact unfair advantage SVG carries into every road course, an advantage baked into him at Mount Panorama that these American stars simply cannot buy, train, or fake. And it's got nothing to do with talent alone. It's mechanical, it's physical. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. Stick with me because it gets crazier the deeper we go. Let's talk about what actually separates him. And I need you to picture the footwell. Your average NASCAR driver grew up on ovals. Turn left, keep the throttle pinned, feel the load. That's a craft, a beautiful one, but it's a 2-pedal mindset. Brake, then gas. SVG grew up doing something completely different, heel and toe, downshifting, right foot rolling across the brake pedal while the edge of that same foot blips the throttle matching engine revs to the gearbox on the way down, all while the left foot is stabbing the clutch and the hands are catching a car that's already stepping sideways. That's 4 things happening at once, every single corner. It's a dance most Americans never had to learn because ovals don't demand it. Now here's where it gets even wilder. Watch his brake release. This is the bit the champions are shook by. Most drivers brake in a straight line, get off the pedal, then turn. SVG trail brakes. He carries the brake into the corner, bleeding it off millimeter by millimeter as he adds steering. That keeps weight loaded on the front tires, keeps the nose planted, and lets him rotate the car at the apex while everyone else is understeering wide. Kyle Larson, arguably the most naturally gifted driver in America, didn't dance around it. He said, flat out, when a guy like that can come in and kick your ass at your own game, it shows we all have room to improve. Chase Elliott went further. He made me look bad, and I kind of think the rest of us too. That's the tell. When your rivals are complimenting you, you're good. When they're apologizing for themselves, you're a problem. Look, quick one. If you're proud of watching a Kiwi walk into the biggest racing series on the planet and stick the boot in, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Here's the truth. 70% of you watching right now aren't subbed. 70%. Don't let the Americans win the numbers game. Join the crew. It's free and it keeps this channel decoding the racing the mainstream blokes won't. Right back into it, because this next part is where the mind games start. Here's something the stopwatch doesn't show you. The fear factor. When SVG appears in your mirrors on a road course, something happens to a driver's brain, and we've seen it play out. Take the friction with Austin Hill. These two have banged doors more than once, including a hard shot that sent Hill into the wall, and a separate flashpoint that dragged them both into the NASCAR hauler for a closed-door sit-down. It's not two mates having a laugh. That's genuine simmering needle. But here's the psychology of it. When you know the bloke behind you is quicker through every corner, you start defending corners you'd normally never think about. You brake a touch earlier just in case. You take a defensive line that kills your own exit speed. And the moment you compromise your exit, he's got to run on you down the next straight anyway. You can't outdrive him, so you try to outposition him. And that's exactly when the mistakes come. A locked front tire, a missed shifting point, A wheel dropped onto the marbles offline. SVG doesn't even have to touch them. He just has to be there. The pressure does the wrecking for him. And this is the part that terrifies the paddock most. Hamlin admitted the only way to beat him is a fluke, a caution, with a dozen laps to go that shuffles the strategy. His words, "You're going to have to put him at a disadvantage on tires or strategy to overtake him. If it's straight lap time, I don't see anyone having enough." Think about that. The blueprint to beat Shane Van Gisbergen isn't drive faster. It's pray for luck. So the secret I promised you. The unfair advantage, here it is. It's not the heel and toed. It's not the trail braking. Those are symptoms. The real weapon is where he learned them, Mount Panorama. Bathurst isn't a racetrack in the American sense. It's a 6.2-kilometer public road that climbs a mountain, across the top through Skyline, down into the Dipper, and that off-camber left-right plunge. You're threading a heavy car through concrete walls with barely a car's width of margin. Get it wrong, and you don't spin onto grass. You're in the wall. And then there's Forrest's Elbow, a fast downhill adverse camber right-hander where the road falls away from you exactly when you need grip the most. The surface tips the wrong way. The car wants to run wide toward the wall, and you're trailing the brakes into it at serious speed. That's the education no American driver received. SVG spent years learning to find grip where there isn't any managing a heavy stock car on a low grip, unforgiving walled-in surface where precision isn't a bonus, it's survival. Now connect the dots. What's a NASCAR street course? Chicago, concrete walls, blind corners, a greasy, low-grip surface, heavy cars. That's Bathurst with a different postcode. Hamlin actually nailed it himself. He said, "We came to his world more than he came to our world. The tighter the track was, the faster he was versus the field." That's the whole thing right there. When NASCAR built street and road courses, they didn't just add races to the calendar. They accidentally built SVG's home turf. And then he proved it a win on debut at Chicago in 2023, then a road course streak in 2025 that ran to 4 straight sweeping weekends at Sonoma and making history at Mexico City. The Americans didn't invite a rival. They invited a specialist onto a track that looks exactly like the one that raised him. So here's the question I want you chewing on tonight. Is Shane Van Gisbergen genuinely the greatest road racer to ever strap into a stock car a man Denny Hamlin himself calls the best the Cup Series has ever seen? Or have the NASCAR boys simply fallen behind, too comfortable turning left for too long? I've got a strong opinion, but I want yours first. And if you reckon this is impressive, wait until you see what he did to the entire field at Sonoma. That breakdown is on your screen right now. Go watch it. I'll see you in there.